Hello and welcome, everybody. I hope you're enjoying Skybound Expo, of course, and you're having a good time and watching all this cool, amazing content that's been being shown to you in this amazing weekend. I hope you're having a good time too. My name, of course, is Carlos Lopez. I am the community manager, social media manager, all guru of Skybound Games. And you're here because you want to check out this cool panel. It's the making of Rainbow Billy, which we have the entire Manavoid team here. Well, not everybody, but we got some selective folks here, but they're repping the whole team. First of all, guys, thank you so much. I know you guys are super busy, super hardworking on Rainbow Billy, but I want to bring you guys in, and we're going to go a little more deep into Rainbow Billy and talk more about kind of the back end, the front end, behind the scenes stuff, all the fun stuff that goes within making a game, because it doesn't take a small amount of peanut. It takes like a village to make this happen. So, guys, introduce yourselves, please. We want the whole Skybound family wants to know who you guys are, what you guys do.
Yeah. So my name is Christopher Chansey. I am the executive producer at Manavoid, he, him. And basically, yeah, I'm wearer of many hats. Like most indie teams, we're forced to have a lot of roles. And so I pretty much take care of all the administrative side of things. A little bit of the marketing stuff as well, so I can let the team take care of all of the creative stuff.
Awesome. You're doing the work, man. Everybody is. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm Alexis Assal, he, him, and I am co-creative director with Tony, and I'm also handling the technical side of the game mostly. Like Chris said, we all wear many hats.
Hey, my name is Anthony Boschir Rosaval. So I go by he, him, even though if I haven't found a better pronoun for me, because I have some stuff on my head, but I'm co-creative director with Alexis, and I handle all the artistic part. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And we have one more guest in here too.
I'm Tiffany. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm one of the artists on Rainbow Billy. I'm in charge of mostly 2D art and a lot of the freaky creature creation on the game.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys again, because I know you guys are really heads on in making this game possible as much as you can. But I got some questions, because, a lot of people in the industry, or even just in general in the community of indie games, people don't really know how to kind of start from like the beginning, middle, and end. And not just only that, but possibly even just Kickstarter information. So my first question to you guys as a team, and I think we can probably start with Christopher on this question, and we could kind of go around everybody. I kind of want to know, like, what do you think Rainbow Billy succeeded like on Kickstarter, and what did you guys do to kind of prepare for that? Because I know there's a lot that goes into kind of setting it up and getting a Kickstarter page up, and kind of just what goes behind the scenes to kind of capitalize people to kind of really back the project.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a bunch of reasons why people do Kickstarter. Sometimes like people are just looking for those early adopters for a community. Sometimes people want to test out an idea. Sometimes people like need actual funding to be able to hit certain milestones in their production. In our case at Manavoid, we usually use Kickstarter as a market test. Like we basically want to know, do people vibe with what we're trying to make? Are people going to enjoy this game, or like, is it a good idea? So really early on to prepare, I remember me and Tony spent like weeks, if not months, fleshing out what the visuals would look like and what the design of the game would look like. And we built the page and we made the videos and all that stuff. So it takes about 2 months of preparations to run a good Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like we had this cool idea that Tony came up with of like having, like a black and white kind of game with these creatures that you would you'd be able to kind of befriend and capture in the game. And I was like, yeah, but it'd be so cool if we could have some more RPG elements to it. And we were basically going back and forth with this idea for a while, but Tony had already fleshed out so many cool visuals for the game. And yeah, basically I think, aesthetically, like our art team is really, really strong. So I think that's like one of the first reasons why I think the Kickstarter worked out. And it wasn't our first Kickstarter. We had Kickstarted games in the past for us and for other indie studios here in Montreal that we helped out. So we knew how the game worked. And and we already had like a base community for Manavoid that we could bring in. And yeah, I think, you know, the proposition like spoke to the right people. I don't know, Tony, if you have like any more that you wanted to add on that.
I think what has been successful and why we reach our goal and all that community that we gather around, it's because we are passionate by the themes that we were going through, and also the elements of gameplay that we found in other games, like Wind Waker for selling boats, Pokemon creature capture. So of course, then we face the reality of being independent. We cannot go against those. We cannot promise the same amount of stuff that those AAA games can give. But I think that sharing that passion of that kind of game with or aesthetic that was kind of old school Disney, that Cuphead make successful in video games by bringing back the art style. I think that we hit something, and we hit it, and we were successful.
Yeah, if I can bounce on that. I joined actually after the Kickstarter was launched, so I have a kind of a different perspective on why I think it was it succeeded. And I think, for me, when I saw it, the aesthetic is something that really that's the one thing I saw at first, and then I saw all the gameplay elements around it that were super interesting, and it was a mix of a lot of different styles, and it was clear that I knew the team had a lot of wild ideas for the games, and I think it really appealed to a lot of people, and it appealed to me to join the team, so it definitely did something right.
Yeah. I had also joined in after the Kickstarter, and I do agree that not only on the Kickstarter, but also in the early days where we'd show the game over, at events and stuff like that, we always got comments on the art style. It had I think that Tony's original vision as well had a very childish and very charming appeal to sort of that old Disney sort of aesthetic that I think we all sort of hold on to somewhat. The game took some turns ever since, but that was definitely I think it was definitely one of the big reasons why it definitely did attract attention on Kickstarter.
Yeah, it has that really cool Saturday morning kind of cartoon vibe you would watch as a kid. Just space out, have a good time, watch it, not question anything, just be I just want to have a good time. So
and to bounce on what everyone said, I think another reason why it worked, and this is something that we had in mind when we were designing the game, is back in 2018, I remember some statistics coming out of E3, and it was something 85% of games were showcasing some form of violence. And I was like, well, man, that kind of sucks that there's not more a different types
just
of
feel good games.
Just wholesome, positive vibes games. So
agree.
I think it allowed us to shine through maybe in a way, because there's not that much of an offer, or there wasn't at least at that point. And to this year, because we were part of the Wholesome Direct lately, we really noticed that there's a lot more games that are going towards a more of a feel good approach, and it's fun to see, because I think there's a variety of genres out there, and I think the one that we were targeting was just maybe not as well served as it might be today.
Oh, that's awesome, and I'm glad there's kind of this nice movement moving around to really kind of shake up some things and make games more accessible to more people. And some people do, of course, have a lot of certain PTSD, and they suffer a war game or any game with guns is not what they were going to go with. And I agree with you. There should be more wholesome games. There should definitely be more games that people can play with their kids and sit down and be a little bit more different and be more open about being accessible, right? I think that's the beauty about indie devs, and especially you guys making Rainbow Billy too. I think it's a game anybody can play. It's really great. And by that, I really want to talk about something else. You guys finished the Kickstarter, you guys are going through, and now that you guys are just fully funded, how do you start making the game real? What are kind of the big steps from there? What the Kickstarter's done, what's the next big step? So
the Kickstarter is a fun exercise, because it really forces you to cover all of the bases. So you've thought about the art style, the art direction is clear in your head. All of the design elements are kind of fleshed out because you have to explain what the game is to the backers. And so at that point, it's more like, okay, well, what are the first systems that we need to implement to be able to make this a reality? And I think this is where Alexis comes in, because we needed some extra programmer help to be able to make the vision happen. The game does a lot of things, you know, like if you have to describe it, it's like it's an adventure RPG puzzle platformer where it starts off in black and white and your job is to recolor the entire universe. So, I mean, there's a lot there to unpack, and that's a lot of different
labels.
systems. A lot of buzzwords. So, so the first part, you know, is always kind of having that holy trinity of art, design, and programming come together and understand like what the timelines are going to look like. What are we looking for as a first prototype to be able to test things out? And this game has gone through so many iterations. So anyone can go check out the Kickstarter, but you'll notice that it's in 2 dimensions. And like back then, the aesthetic was very, very much like 1930s Disney, whereas today we're much more into modern cartoons. It's in 2.5D. Like the world has grown a lot. So, you know, I think in that sense, you have to start small and kind of like an onion, you're layering on like a lot like more elements as it goes. But I think Alexis might be like the best person to talk to for that, because he built it from the ground up.
Yeah, like it was really fun joining the project because like the Kickstarter had a very like interesting vision, but what I really loved about it is that it wasn't necessarily clear. Like there was a lot of flexibility involved in it, and like Tony he designed like the start of the project, but he allowed everyone on the team to really participate and like create and shape it. And I think everyone on the team really was able to like change things in it and like put his own.
Add their own spice to it, sort of.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I think when we really started developing it after the Kickstarter, like Chris said, you start with small systems. You have like your vertical slice in mind, what you need to do, like to have a prototype to play it, because we wanted to iterate on it as much as we could. So we needed to be able to like play it first. And like, I think we chose the pillars of the game, and then we iterated on them. And those pillars change so much throughout the game. I think we're gonna be able to like go deeper into this later. But yeah, it was very important for us to have a first playable, basically, quickly to play it and see what worked, what didn't.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, the first playable is oftentimes like the first thing you'll show at an event, and then you'll see what people like and dislike. So, you know, trying to test and talk about the game as often as possible with as many people as possible is super important. And yeah, like that first demo that we ended up polishing up after like more than one event where people told us what they liked and they very much told us what they didn't like. we were able to tweak some stuff, and basically I met the great Ian Howe from Skybound at, you know, Mega Migs in Montreal in the cold north in November of 2019, and he really liked the vision that we were going for, liked the demo, and I guess the rest is history. And we're a big family now, and that's awesome.
That's awesome. So, you know, it's great to getting all this like information so that we can share, of course, with other prominent indie devs that really want to get into this business, and not just business, but also the community side of like trying to build a Kickstarter and how kind of build up that game chunk or anything. I did want to bring up like the next question, which is I think it's a huge part in Rainbow Billy, and I think it really shows a lot. But how do you guys put the message of empathy and inclusivity into a game like this, and where those messages were so important to you guys as a team, the whole Manavoid team?
Yeah, if I can start on this answer,
please do.
I think that's something that came out really quick. It's the all what's empathy and knowing the other, and, you know, bringing this more wholesome thematics on the game came a little bit after the Kickstarter, and I'll say why. It's because the team went from 2 people to we are more than 25 today. And what happens when you grow up a team like that is that there are a lot of people that are coming, and those people have history, and each, you know, and we share histories, we share some past, we share some fun moments. And I think that naturally, in a kind of a holistic way, we bring this idea of empathy, because when we were designing combat, we were like, we don't want this to be combat. We don't want to call it combat. We want to call it something different, because instead of hurting the person that's in front of us, why don't we understand it? Why don't we try to know how this person is? And with our game that involved color, we were like, oh my God, it's perfect. If a creature is black and white and you don't know it, then you'll need to find out what colors that are inside that creature, their inner colors. So I think that through the growing of the team and through the designing of the game that emerged because of that growing, came up with ideas of empathy and also.
Yeah, I think something really clicked when we sort of decided that the concept was not only creature collection, but also trying to determine what the true colors of the other creature was. And then it was all a question of like rephrasing and just reframing everything on the context of, instead of violence, attacks, killing, it was really more an idea of befriending, understanding, communication, which led to the game being way more narrative than we had initially planned for it to be. And I know that like our lead writer, John, has a big part to play in the general empathy vibe of the game, because there's so much dialogue in the game, and each creature has their own little issues to deal with and their own problems, and some of them are bigger than others. But I think it's really interesting to get that perspective about like, let me try and understand each and every one of them, and let me try and like have a conversation. And it's a confrontation, not a battle, so you're really just trying to get through to them and understand them better, so you can come to like a mutual understanding in the end, which I think is really sweet.
Yeah, definitely. I think the confrontation is probably the system that evolved the most throughout the project. Like from a turn-based old school RPG to we tried so many different things, and that's when the first playable was important, because we'll like test the confrontations and see that a lot of things, the crazy things we're trying to do with color at the beginning didn't really work. And when we really like tried to apply empathy to each of our pillars, that's when like it kind of clicked, and the colors were now used as part of like finding the other person's colors and trying to give them back the colors. So we contextualize colors in the game basically, so that every time you see color in the game, it has a meaning for Billy. And yeah, that is so. It also changed like why it gave a reason for why you want to recolor the world as Billy. And yeah, it just the confrontation, I should say, is just like it really evolved with everyone that came on board, because as Tiffany said, there's conversations with everyone, and we tried to have like not everyone's issues. Like we try to like have every character represent a different person in like a team member's life, for example, or not necessarily a specific person, but someone that makes you think of someone you met. So it was
a lot of variety.
Yeah.
Our writer like has 60 different personalities, because those 60 creatures all have their own like, you know, their own story, their own background. Like there's a lot of the Bible for this game is several hundred pages long. Like there's a lot of content narrative wise that went into it. And I think, you know, for us, when we were like starting out, like we were asking ourselves these questions about like, well, if color is going to be one of the pillars of the game, because the game starts off in black and white, but in fact it starts off in color, and the Leviathan brings it into black and white, and then, you know, Billy keeps their color, and they want to bring it back to the world, right? So for us, we were kind of asking ourselves these questions about what, like, let's take this first layer where, you know, you're actually going from black and white to color, and that's fine, but like, how can we go deeper into like the why of it, you know? And asking that question brings a bunch of stuff to surface. And the first thing that hit us was, well, when you're talking about a situation, and if it's in black or white, it's a very binary way of seeing things. You know, it's either good or evil. It's either left or right. It's where, in fact, like, you know, human beings are so complex, and there's so much depth that goes into a lot of decision making, or a lot of people's feelings, or all of these things. So that was the first thing. the Leviathan like has this kind of a paternalistic figure that's there trying to like keep everything black and white, trying to keep everything, you know, very like closed-minded, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you have Billy, that's this child, and is just encountering all of these different environments. He's encountering all of these different creatures, and one by one, he just figures them out and keeps like recoloring all of these people and bringing them to their team. And that's, I think, you know, it's a special way, I think, of seeing the world through a child's eyes, and you know, all of the situations, and some of the creatures like have these like big like life issues or big problems or personality traits that are not easy to deal with. And then like we are using Billy as like a convoy to be able to see through the kids' eyes what like they would perceive of a situation, and just doing that, it allows us, I think, all to kind of take a step back and grow. You know, because when you see a situation, you're 30 years old, you know, like obviously you have your background, you have your experiences, but when you see it through the eyes of a kid, like it's easier to understand why like maybe your way of seeing things is very, you know, straightforward, whereas there might be like a spectrum of different things that might be happening. So that's also like, I think, an important part to why empathy was part of the game is the whole like thought process that was behind the design of using color as a pillar for the game.
Yeah, I you know, me playing the game too, I've had my hands on the game for quite some time, and playing it, and I can really see the message you guys are really trying to push through, and even the battle system, and each of those characters you bump into, and it's very true what you're saying, right? Through the eyes of a kid, it's you know, you kind of see things a little bit more open, and while you get older, you're kind of like a little bit more narrow-minded, but you're still very open. But the great thing about it is just the way the confrontations are and the way they're resolved is so satisfying, because you know, as you're saying, you know, we're all humans, we'll have our problems, and it plays a huge part into seeing pieces of people who are very hard to express who they are or express kind of their emotions, and it comes across, you know, like somebody angry could be suffering from, you know, post-traumatic stress or any of these situations. And I love how you guys really, you know, resolve things by having these conversations with these characters and resolving them, and being like, yeah, you know, I myself go to therapy every month. I am open about it. I recommend everybody to try to get therapy as if you can. And it's very helpful to really kind of have like a self-reflect game, kind of show you like, oh yeah, I could go about it this way, or I shouldn't be using my anger to frustrate myself, to stress myself out and causing more people to stress out, or lashing out at somebody by accident. And I really appreciate you guys really kind of having these open conversations through a game, which is, you know, not a lot of games can really do this kind of things like what you guys are doing. So, you know, to me, from somebody who's dealt with a lot of like childhood trauma, and seeing a game like this really kind of opening up these doors for just about anybody, and just saying like, yeah, you don't have to, you know, you could just talk. It's okay to express your feelings. It's okay to feel a certain way. But also, you know, it's always healthy to try to resolve or try to really find a way to have like, you know, this nice secrecy of just figuring out when to take a minute to breathe, or, you know, when someone's having a bad day, how to go about it, you know. And I really love that. I really love what you guys are doing.
A lot of parents have come up to us like after testing the game out, like in demos at different events, and they were like, you know, I would really play this game with my kid, and I feel like there'd be discussions to be had.
Yeah.
And we're like, great, that's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, and we're not trying to like to have the confrontation. Like the end of the confrontation, we don't want it to be like you solve the person's problem, but we want like Billy to understand the person that is confronting, and just giving a message to open up and really talk things through.
Yeah, just listen and talk and come to a mutual understanding in the end. There's a lot of catharsis to the fact that at the very end of it, you also get to make a new friend once you've succeeded.
Yeah.
You know, like it's very cute.
Yeah, and it's you know, when you have a community, it's that feel that we wanted also. When you have a community and you can talk to people and people talk about their problems in a safe space, usually you say, oh, okay, so I can be like this. I can, you know, you feel stronger. You feel like, okay, I'm allowed to be like this. And I think that's something that we want also the player to feel like, if you kind of recognize yourself into a character, well, you need to feel that you can be like this. Like, if I can give an example of Glower that has kind of problems with how he looks, well, don't be shy. Just be yourself and open up, and So that's this aspect of safe space and giving a positive vibe to the story. That's something.
It makes you feel less alone to have to know that there's other people like you as well, and there's a cool community, and you can have support from those around you, even if they are not exactly like you.
And the game doesn't stop once you've captured or made a new friend. Basically, you can keep talking to this person. They're on your boat now, so you can go visit them and you can feed them and upgrade them. And every time you upgrade them a level, they'll have a new part to their story that unlocks. Then you can understand them a bit more. Yeah. And that's also something that we thought was important, and also why those 60 characters that we have in the game all have their distinct personalities. You can really delve deep into the story and the lore of each one of them if you want to get to know them better, or if you want to understand why they are the way they are. There's a lot there to unpack as well.
Yeah, even in terms of mechanics, we try to keep the characters that you meet important for the whole story. So the way the confrontation works, you're not going to choose your team as you would in another RPG and stick with your team and level it up. Instead, every friend you made along the way is here with you every confrontation, and they might even interject in a confrontation or in a talk with someone because their personal experience, they can relate to the other creature you're talking to, and they can help or sometimes not, or you can give them hints about how to deal with them. But no matter the decision you take, there's always nice interactions between the different creatures, the group of friends that you make. And we really try to make it so that the creatures you feel like they're people, because that's what we tried to do when we made it.
Yeah, we do more than the bare minimum of them just oh, I'm sad, you try to sprinkle in their personality as much as possible in the rest of the game.
So my next question, I know it's a little bit off, but I really want to ask you guys, for the artists, I know we have 2 artists in here, what are kind of the process when creating these characters to reflect these emotions? How do you do it so it's not too much, right? And it's just enough for once you resolve, being able to have that empathy with the character, and then it changes to a more happier character. How was that process drawing these characters?
Well, to be honest, a lot of the characters were conceptualized and created before we came up with the idea of giving them dialogue and personalities. Originally it was kind of more just catch the creatures, but we definitely had a lot of discussions with the writers to try and come to a decision about which characters had what kind of personality. We tried to create a wide variety of characters. I know that when we were conceptualizing them, Tony had asked for 1/3 cute, 1/3 normal, 1/3 badass, and to try and attract a little bit of it. And I thought that was a really funny way to go about it, because it forced me not to stick to one creature type. Each different area in the game kind of have their own sort of creature family. Dino Land, we're looking mostly at dinosaurs and stuff like that, lizards. So yeah, it was really interesting to...
Apologies.
It's okay.
So it was really, really interesting to come up with... my camera got all blurred. Oh, well.
It's okay.
It was really interesting to come up with different creature types that necessarily ended up having totally different energies to them. Some of them were big, some of them were small. And also each area of the game sort of represents different things thematically and in the metaphor of what the area sort of means to the game. So we did try to convey that through the creatures, and we just tried to make fun, appealing creatures. And then we had discussions with the writers about how these creatures should, well, also the animators as well put in they injected a lot of personality into it. So a lot of the discussion came after the creature creation. I'd say it's the rest of the team that took the creatures and made them, gave them a personality. But it was a lot of fun to try and come up with, I mean, our sound designer Antoine as well kept asking us questions about like what sound should this creature make, and then we'd be like, I don't know, like a suffocated frog noise but sad. Like, so that was a lot of fun. It's really a big team effort. At its core, the artistic side was pretty much just fun creatures. That's it.
Yeah, I think that we make kind of a reverse reverse work where we started by making the visuals. Then we took the visuals and we said, okay, so this character with what he's showing, like Eggins, Eggins is a creature that's an egg, and it's a dinosaur that's always hiding behind his shell.
Super cute, by the way.
Thank you.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, and I think that going through, inspecting the creature, we were like, I think that this feels like when we need space. It's somebody that's so by constructing the creatures like that, we could have a large variety of personalities. But I think that there are stuff in the games also, like Tiffany said, like we build the world that Billy's exploring with a theme that's behind that we want to let the player discover and maybe find out clues. But there is something that going through the land, the fried frost is all what's cold. Then you go through the underworld of the sunken, and then there's a kind of a temple vibe. So with all that themes, we could make enough creatures to create enough of a variety of personalities that you can find. So it was a reverse work.
Yeah, we kind of did it backwards, but
but what I liked about this process is that there were a lot of creatures that were designed, like a lot more that appear in the game. Even for the Kickstarter, like there was already a ton of creatures, and we ran through all of them, and we made even more, and then all the team really contributed to see like which one we liked the most and which one we were like able to attach emotions to. Like some, like Eggins, like everybody like had a connection with Eggins with just its visuals, so it was easy to create the character from the visuals. And the fact that like Tony and Tiffany did such a great work in the concept art for the creatures, that like they made a lot of them, and they were like the team could like just know which ones were going to work and which one were not going to work, and it was very fun, the process making.
We had some in-house
votes
and polls. So we're part of like a group of developers in Montreal called the Indie Asylum. There's like 8 companies that are under the same roof, and Manavoid is one of them. So it allowed us sometimes to just kind of riff off of all of the other developers in our hub and say like, listen, here are 12 creatures. We need to drop it down to 6. Which one are going to make it? And then people would just vote for their favorite, and it allowed us to kind of like right away. And some of them were like significantly more favorited than others. So you could tell just by the reaction of people and there's a variety of people in the asylum. And like we're a very diverse group, so it was fun to see like which ones people seem to enjoy more than others, and allowed us to make some decisions there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing that I like the most about it is, so I'm a little bit outside of production because I'm the admin dude. So oftentimes I would just come into the Discord and I'd see like a slew of new characters, and then I'd look and then there would be like a naming process, and the naming process would be very, very, very organic. Where it's just like someone would say, I think this person or this character looks like this name. And I'm like, that name makes no sense, but okay. And in the end, they all have their own names, their own personality. And I think right now, after playing the games for like a few hundred hours, I could not see them without their name. Like the incarnation is done.
it just makes sense, Well, guys, thank you so much. We're gonna wrap things up now. I want to first thank the Manavoid team. First, I know you guys are super busy. I again, thank you again for taking the time to do this cool panel with us here at Skybound at Skybound Expo, of course. And please, guys, if you guys are interested in following Manavoid, please do. They're on Instagram. They are Manavoid. If I'm correct, let me pull it up. We are Manavoid, to be correct.
We are.
Same thing for Twitter as well. And then Manavoid Entertainment on Facebook. Please give these guys a follow. They're an amazing team. Very, very, very prominent. I see these guys making bigger and better things all the time. Not just because I work with you guys as well, but the fact that outside perspective, working with indie devs, this game is really cool. I can't wait to let my niece and nephew play this game as well. And then of course we got like a cool little trailer after this. So please stick around. You want to check it out. And thank you. Bye. Everybody say bye. We have a good time. Bye, everybody. We love you.
Thank you for having us.
Go wish list Rainbow Billy on Steam.
Yes.
Please do wish list.
Please wish list us.
Yes, wish list. Wish list. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.